session. Here we are. This is week 2, day 4 of Web Fundamentals, and we are going to go over the terminal. So welcome to the terminal lecture. I'm your instructor, Josh, filling in for Sean this afternoon. Very pleased to meet you all. I do recognize some of you, but I hope to get to know you guys better. So let's go ahead, without further ado, get started and explore what the terminal is. So if you would like to follow along, I'm going to this part of the platform so that you can reference whatever lecture material that we have. It'll all be here. You don't have to take notes. We will go through it step by step. But before we go through this platform and dissect everything that we have in here, I did create a slide for you guys to give a broad overview of what we're going to go over here. Okay, so what is a terminal? What are we talking about exactly when we see a terminal or say terminal? I mean, okay, so let's go ahead and dive further. Let's see, using the terminal. So before we talk about what a terminal is, let's go over a concept, this here, the GUI, okay? We need to understand what this is before we talk about the terminal, okay? So let's talk about a GUI or GUI. A graphical user interface, or GUI, is a type of user interface that allows users to interact with electronic devices through graphical icons, audio indicators, instead of text-based or UIs or typed command labels. Okay, so what does that mean? That means when you open up your computer and you see your desktop open and you see your folders as little icons that you can hover your mouse over and click, that is essentially what a graphical user interface is, right? That's the face of the computer. That's the graphics there that the user can interact with and touch the face of the different buttons that the computer has to offer. That's what a GUI is, okay? They're introduced as a response to the perceived difficulty of command line interfaces, or CLIs, which require typing commands on a computer keyboard. So that's what we're going to go over. The typing commands on a computer keyboard. GUIs are now the standard computer interface used for desktop and mobile devices such as smartphones, MP3 players, portable media players, gaming devices, smaller household, office, and industrial controls. So, fun fact, I used to live in South Korea. I used to be an ESL, English teacher there, and all the household devices were all Samsung. So that was just one of those things where it's like, oh, they are just uniform in a certain, no, it was Samsung or I don't know, guys, Samsung just stood out. Like AC, it was my microwave, it was my heated floors. It was awesome. Anyways, the actions in a GUI are usually performed through direct manipulation of the graphical elements such as buttons, scroll bars, windows, tabs, menus, cursors, and the mouse pointing device. Okay, so this is just a broad overview, and I found this cool website one day that I just wanted to put in the lecture. So let's just talk about, oh, not that. I want to go over this here. HUDsandGUIs.com. Okay, so let's just go there. Quick detour. This is not about the terminal, but this is kind of cool. So HUDsandGUIs.com. This is just an example of what a GUI is, what a GUI is, okay? So these are from like different movies. I don't know half of these movies in video games, to be honest, but I do like seeing the concept art for the GUIs. So let's look at this one, Star Citizen UI. See, this one here has a holographic GUI here. This is where you click the buttons to make the spaceship roll around and turn the AC on. And here you see this, I have no idea what these buttons do. I'm just joking here. This is a holographic UI here. This is like very like a futuristic GUI. So I love just checking out futuristic type of GUI. Some of them are kind of scary too. Some of them are like retro, old school like this. So these are different GUIs. So when we say GUI, this is what we're talking about, okay? So we're going to use this concept of a GUI as a segue to go into talking about the terminal. Okay, so let's go to our next slide. Does anyone have any questions about what a GUI is or any thoughts that they want to share? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, by the way, guys, I'm not usually a coffee drinker, but I did have a cup of coffee today, and I am talking super fast, I noticed, and I'm all right. I have a lot of information to share, but if I'm going too fast, just let me know, okay? Slow me down, say, hey, Josh, you're going too fast for me. Just show me that again, please. I'll totally do that again. All right, so GUI, and then let's talk about now the terminal. What is the terminal? So let's talk about that. What is it? What's a terminal? The terminal is a program that allows you to type commands and retrieve where was I? Receive output, okay? It is a text input output environment, okay? So the terminal, you get inputs and outputs based on what you type or in the commands line. And so that's basically the same as clicking an icon, right? You get a response from interacting with it. So our interaction now is through words and commands, okay? So the CLI, the command line interface, is an essential part of coding, no matter which programming language you are working. So in my experience, I told you I had a contract at Wells. I was not familiar at all with the terminal as a student at the dojo. Got introduced at the beginning just like you guys are. It was in the back of my memory. I never really had to use it that much. Well, you do in some stacks, but then after graduating, didn't have to use it so much. When I got the job, 7, 8 months into it, it became really important to have knowledge of how the terminal works, okay? So having this information in your back pocket, even if you don't have perfect practice with it, is really helpful, okay? So knowing how to use the terminal is important because it allows you to automate actions, scripts, and perform tasks that are typically faster than doing them in the graphical user interface. Okay, so these are just some interesting GIFs I had here just to entertain you while I read that. Okay, so now let's talk about the uses of the terminal. All right, let's talk about what you can do if you know how to use the terminal, right? If you use the terminal, you can, one, navigate through the file system. How do we navigate through our file system in our computer currently? So how many of us are Mac users? Raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you are PC users? Bow your head in shame. All right, no, I'm just kidding. I use both. I just like to pick on one some days more than the other. Doesn't matter. I use both. So if you're a Mac user, how do you find your files? You find your files through the Finder, right? So you have to find your files through this. Let me see. Exit out of here. All right. So you have to use your Finder, which is like an icon that I don't have on my desktop, but this is what it looks like when it's open. Okay. So you can go up here, you go to the search bar, type in Finder. This is how right now you would be looking for your files in your computer. Okay, but there is another way to do it using the terminal. If you're on a PC, what's the Finder on the PC? Can anyone say? Don't say it at once. It's the File
Explorer.
File Explorer. Yes, File Explorer. Super helpful to know how to use that tool. And that you'll get all familiar with the File Explorer with the Finder, but the terminal is another way to explore your files. Using the right commands, you can show your folders and your files that you have accessible to you by typing in the right commands, okay? So this is how computers used to be. Before computers became upgraded, optimized to have all GUIs, common GUIs, right? So we click an icon, you open it that way, double click or right click. Before the computer worked that way, it was like this. It was a terminal. You have to type in commands. Well, what am I doing? Okay, managing files and folders. Managing files and folders. The terminal can be used to create, move, copy, rename, and delete files and folders, right? So create, update, delete, show your files, show your folders. You're gonna run into this over and over. It's create, read, update, delete. So CRUD, think about that acronym, right? Don't have to understand it, memorize it, but you're gonna run into it a lot in your next stack, CRUD. So you're going to be doing CRUD commands through your terminal: delete files, create files, show your files, update your files. Okay, so running programs and scripts. Sometimes you want a program to run, to open and start the process of whatever its purpose is to do. So running programs and scripts. The terminal can be used to run programs and scripts from the command line. Okay. So we're going to get into this now. You see some GIFs about how you see some people doing it on the right. They type in a command and then it starts a process, right? It begins doing something, starts a script. A script is a sequence of steps to do something. So it reads through that steps and it starts the process of whatever it is that it's supposed to do. So getting scripts to run, getting programs to start running. All right, so running programs, we do this all the time through our GUI, right? When we want a program to start, we double click it, and it opens up. So this is something else we can do through our terminal command line. We can get something to get started through typing in the right command. Okay, now installing and managing packages. So packages are, self-descriptive. It's a package of data. It's a collection of different files and programs that may work together in conjunction. Maybe like a library that has different books that are independent but work together. So packages, you can install them through the terminal. Okay, you can install them through the terminal, just like you can install it through your GUI, right? You can install programs and packages through your GUI. So anything you can do in your GUI with your mouse clicking, right click, left click, you can do now through typing commands in your terminal. Okay, so installing and managing packages, and then lastly, version control. That means updating getting the latest version of whatever package for the files that you're wanting to update. So for example, let's say, you want the latest version of any program, doesn't matter, iTunes, something on your computer that you use. And, sometimes it updates itself, where it'll ask you if you want to update it, or it'll see a notification, you need to update this program. You can also do that through typing in the right commands in the terminals, getting the right version, not specifically to iTunes, but anything really. So getting the right version of something. And so when you're creating apps, the tools that you're using to create apps in the future, those tools are dependent on those companies to update themselves. Once they update themselves, we have to get the latest features, download them to get our app working. So we're dependent on them, and we're also updating their versions of whatever code that they've been working on. Okay, so that is version control. Okay, so that's the uses of the terminal. Now let's talk a little bit about commands. Commands in the terminal. These are just a basic, these are not all the commands, of course, but these are just a few introductory ones, some common ones we're going to be going over at this lecture. PWD, LS, CD. Okay, so these are the ones, I'll do a better job to highlight them. Let me see if I can use my pen here. Behave with me. No, my board's not working, of course. Okay, so I'll just use my mouse to highlight. PWD. That means when you type that in, just like this GIF sees here, I don't know what the language this is, but it's but I can guess if no, it doesn't matter. PWD, print working directory. That's what it means. So when you type in that command, PWD, that's going to show you all the different, that is the current place where you are looking when you are looking through your file and folder structure. And I'll show you an example of what this means. Let's just briefly gloss over them. We don't have to memorize them. So PWD, CD, that means change directory. So we're going to be able to change directory. And by the way, directory means folder. Okay, so folder is a place where you store your files, right? You have your assignments in a coding folder, coding dojo folder, web fundamentals, and then you have your assignments broken down at different folder levels. Those folder levels are directories. Okay, so think that when I say directory. Directory, and then LS. LS means list. This command lists all the files and folders in the current directory. So the current folder structure where you are. And then clear. This command here, this will clear the terminal. We're going to be using this because our terminal will get messy the more we use it, right? More and more text is going to show up the more commands you use, just as you see here. Sometimes we're going to want to clear this all out. So if we type in clear, it will disappear, but that's not showing here in the GIF. I will show you that when we go down further in the lecture, and I'm giving you examples of the terminal. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the difference between the terminal on PC versus Mac, because we're about to get started with our terminal command lines. The main difference between Mac terminal and Windows command line is the environment in which they grew up in and how they were developed. The Windows command line is based on the MS-DOS ecosystem. If you don't know what that means, it's just a jargon. It means it was something different than the one that the Mac terminal, okay? So think Mac terminal is based on Unix, Linux, okay? So that is what we're using. Sometimes we'll need to know the difference, but we don't need to know the whole history of, what it is, it means, and how it was created. We just know that there's two different ones. There's one for Mac and one for Windows PC. The Mac terminal is based on Unix and Linux. Okay, this means that you can do more with a Unix Linux shell in terms of automation and programming. So the Unix Linux one has a bit more freedom. And so when we PC users are going to be going using our terminal, we're going to have you download a certain terminal. We'll show you that in a second. A certain type of terminal so that we can all run the same command lines, run Unix or Linux commands, and all be on the lecture at the same place, okay? So, however, Microsoft has invented heavily in PowerShell. That's another one that's innate in your computer. It's a terminal. It's a. Let me just show you what a terminal is. Okay, so let me just exit out, and then we're going to dive into this soon. So this is one. This is one I have inbuilt into my computer, my Mac computer. It's a ZSH terminal. Okay, there's different ones that I could download, but this is just the one, the bash terminal that's innate in my built into my computer. Okay, the PC users, you have some as well, but we're going to have you download one so that we can all type in the same commands, some Unix Linux commands, and be at the same place for this lecture. Okay, so Mac users, let's bear with our window brethren for just a moment. Windows users, let's do this. Let's go to this page here. All right, I'll link this here in the chat in case you need to see it. Did I start the recording? Yes, I did. Okay, that was my worst habit of forgetting to record. Okay, and I just have random moments of doubt. Let's get started with downloading this here for Windows users. It's called Commander, okay? Interesting name, I like that name, Commander. So let's click that one, download it, and then once you get it up and running, we are good to go for the next phase of our lecture, okay? So let's get this downloaded. Windows users, go to that link that I provided in the chat. That's the part, this page here. And then go here, click to download. It will start downloading it. I'm not going to download and use it on my Mac. I'm going to use the one I have here. But you can unzip this folder, get it working, install it. You'll have Commander that you can use to follow along with this lecture. Okay, so that shouldn't take more than, I don't know, a minute. 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm just going to take a sip of water here while you guys do that. And let's get started. All right. So now that we have our terminals, and by the way, you don't have to keep up with everything I'm doing. I would prefer that you guys watch what I'm doing the first time, see how I'm doing it, and then rewatch the recording and play with your terminal following along with the lecture the second time around. Okay, that's just how I learn better. I note that when I make too many notes watching a lecture, I kind of get distracted from actually seeing it. However you like to follow, but you don't have to keep up is what I'm saying. The other thing I wanted to mention is our terminals may look a little different. I customized mine to look the way it is. That's not the point of this lecture. I can show you how to do that at the very end if you're interested. But when I show you the command lines in my terminal, they're specific to Mac. But Windows users, you should be able to download that commander and use the same commands, the Linux, Unix commands. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And before we start learning all these commands, I just want to give you guys a little hint that by the time we finish all these commands that I show you guys here, we're going to show you a little game that you guys can play on your own or together in groups if you like, however you want. That you can use these commands that we're learning here during this lecture to play the game and put some practice into it, to make it some interesting type of practice, not so dull as just, you know, using these commands in your folder system. So there's this fun game that I'll play at the end. So hopefully I have some time. Still halfway through our hour here, so we're making pretty good pace. So let's get started. All right. So I'm going to go to this basic commands, and I am going to have this side by side next to my terminal here. Okay, so this is my terminal. I opened it up by going to my magnifying glass spotlight search and then typing in terminal. Okay, Windows users use the commander terminal that you just downloaded. All right, and you see here the first thing when I open it up, it says the username currently logged in. That's me. That's my name, Joshua Venegas. All right, and then here it's blinking. This cursor is blinking to let me know I can start typing in the lines that I need to see here. So let's go through our platform command lines that we see here. Let's go through it one by one. Okay, so first one we see here. And before we get started, I need to adjust one more thing. I need to change something on my screen settings so you guys can see the folders, the directories that I'm creating on my screen. So I currently have something set up. So bear with me here. Okay, and so let me just ask while I'm doing this here, does anyone have any experience with the terminal already? Does anyone has anyone played with it at all by chance, or even seen?
I played with it, but you said something about the PowerShell, and for some reason I think it's a little bit different in terms of the commands, like, but there's some similarities, like you said, like ls, like, you know, cd, like command directory, and some of them they work, but I don't know the difference truly.
So we're gonna okay. Now, as soon as I switch my screen, my personal life just came all over here. I'm gonna have to edit that out. Life. All right, so here we go. Here we are. This is the platform present working directory. So this is the first one we're gonna go over. And this is like, you know, whenever I see a movie, I see like the coding scenes in a movie have to do with using these terminal command lines, right? So now let's put on our coder glasses, right? So let's do a montage right now and get into this terminal. All right, first line, PWD. So when I type that in, this tells me where I currently am. Users, and then here I am, Josh, the user currently logged in. This is a path system in my computer, and this is where I currently am in my path. Okay, you can imagine your folder, your path folder system in your computer like a tree that has a single root and then branches out into many different folder locations. So here we are. I am a couple layers in. I'm in the users layer, and then I am in the my username. Okay, and the next one here. So that's our first line, PWD. This is going to tell us where we are. So when you want to know what's the current path location I am in, PWD is going to give you that answer. So PWD, oh, PWD. Okay, and by the way, the up and down arrows on your computer, on your keyboard, excuse me, will save the commands that you have typed in. So if I press the up arrow, that last command that I just typed in, PWD, is going to be saved. If I press the down arrow, it'll go back to the present where I was just about to type in a command. Okay, so you can go through your history of commands by typing the up and down arrow. All right, so does Sean have any poll system that he uses here? Does he just have you guys leave a 1 through 10 in the chat? We can do that. I want to check in with you guys to see how well we're following along. So let's type in a 1 through 10 in the chat. I just want to get some feedback from you guys now at this point. How well do we understand what the terminal is? 1, and then PWD. All right, so what does PWD do? Do you understand what PWD means? Present working directory, and how that is to be understood in relation to the path system that we have innate in our computer. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 10s. Great. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, let's continue. So the next command we have is ls. ls. So use the ls command to see, let's take a look, all the available paths that I can go down from this current present working directory location. So in this location, I can go into my applications folder. I can go into my Creative Cloud Files folder, my desktop, my documents, my downloads, my library, music, pictures, Postman is another one. So I have different files here, different folders. And let's see, I think I can find this if I go into my Finder. So here in my Finder, you can see I have a desktop option where I have all these folders, and you see this on my desktop on my background as well. So these are the same folders you're seeing here. So I see this desktop as a path that I'm able to go into from this current location, but I am not currently in my desktop because I see it as an available door that I can enter through. So these are all, think of them as folder locations or doors that you can enter through, and they have things inside them and doors to other locations. Okay, so let's look at the next command line, ls-l. So this is the same thing as ls. The only difference now is that this is the long form. Okay, so let's go ahead and type that in now, ls-l. Now what do we see? Okay, can someone tell me what we're seeing? What's the difference? I mean, it's obvious, right? But what do you see that's different? Someone described here. What do you think that it's describing here, besides the same file path locations? They're listed, yeah, they're listed vertically, but because that's the reason is because they have so much more information. So this is here the user that created this folder, the date that it was created, and the time it was created. So it gives you complete information about their about the folder. Yeah, and the size as well. Yeah, great. So we won't go too further into that, but this is ls-l. Okay, all these have some meaning, but we don't need to memorize too much information at this point. Just know ls-l is going to give you more information about the file. So it's going to give you their creator and the date they were creating. Okay, so ls-l is the long form. And the next command line we see here is ls-a. ls-a. Okay, so let's take a look at what ls-a is. But before we do that, I'm going to clear my terminal because it's already getting a little messy. So I'm going to type in clear, C-L-E-A-R. enter. Okay, now it's all clear. So I'm going to type in now ls dash a. And now I see something different than what I saw before. Aren't I seeing something different? What am I seeing that's different now? What's all this? I see a dot, .cf user text encoding, .ds store. When I did my first ls, the first time, all I got was a simple list. And then ls-l gave me all the information related to those files. But now doing ls-a gives me all those folder files that I had previously seen on the queries, the requests for all the files that I had. But I also get these hidden files. This is what this is. These are hidden files. When they have a dot in front of them, they're not going to be usually just visible to the naked eye. So like when you're going through your folder system, when you're going through your Finder, for example, or if you're opening a folder here, see my coding builder folder, where is it open? I don't know, it's not opening on this current screen. We'll get that working in a second. But if I were to open it up, hold on, okay, let me get that fixed. So if I open it up, I should see there all the folders and files normally available, but not the hidden files. Okay, so that would be the difference. So where is my folder structure?
Hey, Josh,
Yes,
when I type that in, I get a command not found.
command not found. Okay. Well, we'll debug that. But what did you type in? ls-a.
I did ls dash l first, and then I did ls dash a.
And are you doing it on a Windows using
No, I'm on a Mac.
Mac? Okay. And you open up terminal and then you typed in. Are you capitalizing at all?
No.
Okay.
So okay, I think I see what's going on. So the dash and the following letter has to be together, and the ls has to be different.
Okay. And then yeah, that would be your answer. Yeah. Make
Yeah,
sure
that's it.
ls
Okay.
and then space dash a. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So this here then that we're seeing is all the hidden files and folders. And this is important. Okay. This is important to know because whenever we sometimes our hidden folders are a snag or a reason something's not working, a disruption. So we need to be checking sometimes through our terminal to see if those hidden folders are there. Okay, so we'll go into the actual folder system that I'm not seeing working. I have so many windows up, but I want to focus on one thing at a time. Let's just look at a terminal. These are our hidden files and folders. So keep that noted. And let's take a survey now, 1 through 10 in the chat. How well do we understand this concept? ls, ls-a, and then ls-l. Okay, looking good. Alrighty, so let's continue then with our tour of the terminal. Let's make this smaller. So ls-a is going to give me all the folders and files, including the hidden folders and files. So that's what we're seeing here. All right, and then off to changing now directories. So CD stands for change directory, So let's see. I'm going to type in CD now, but let's clear the terminal. So clear, enter. Okay, let me just do a simple ls so I can see what I have as paths available. Okay, I want it simplified, so I'm just going to do a simple ls, no dash a, no dash l. And I want to go into my desktop now. So in order to do that, I type in cd and then the name of the location I want to go into. So I'm going to type in desktop. D-E-S-K-T-O-P. And by the way, if you type in the first few letters and they're the only ones that match any item on this list, and then press tab, right? Because nothing else here has that spelling to begin with D-E-S, right? So I'm typing in D-E-S here, and if I press tab on my keyboard, it'll finish the spelling for me so that I don't have to make that typo by accident. Okay, so desktop, enter. And so now if I do an ls here, or what was the other command? What was the first command that we learned? Can someone say it? Top of your head?
PWD.
There we go. So now my PWD, my present working directory, is the users and then my name and then the desktop. This is the location I'm currently at, desktop. So now that I'm in my desktop, I am actually at the space that you're seeing here, right? So you're going to see all these folders that I have available here at my desktop. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say ls here, ls, enter, and that's what I see. So all these folders that you see here, these ones that I'm highlighting, are the same folders I have over on my right side of my screen. You can compare them. So there's my Python folder, ideas for later folder, fundamentals folder. So I have a bunch of folders here on my desktop. I can now see them through my terminal. So this is my terminal. This is my GUI, right? So now we have two different visions of the same thing. So now I can go in through my folder system here. I can say CD coding dojo. So I can type in COD because that's the only item here that I know starts with that spelling. I know that's correct so far. So if I press tab, it'll finish it for me. And then I can enter into that location. I'm now there. So if I ls here, that's all my folders that I have in my coding dojo folder. Okay, so if I open this up, and there it is. Okay, finally. Okay, there it is. So that's all my folders and files on my right. And that's what you're seeing listed in text here. So same stuff. Now, I want to go back up to my desktop level. I want to go back up because I'm in this here. All right, this coding dojo folder is right here, right? It lives in my desktop. I'm currently in my coding dojo folder here, so I want to go back to my desktop in the terminal. So I want to go back up a level. So the way to do that is to type in cd again, cd ... Now you see here it says desktop. So let me show you that in the terminal. I mean, sorry, in the platform. cd ... It means it's going to change to the parent directory. Change to the parent directory. So 2 dots means parent directory. So what does cd just 1 dot mean? Okay, let's take a look at that. So if I type in, I'm going to type in clear here so I have clear view. I'm in my desktop as you can see here. Now if I type in cd single dot period enter, it doesn't do anything, right? It just says change to where you already are. Okay, so then I'm back here. Doesn't do anything. So cd dot, not really anything that you need to memorize, but the ones that are important are change directory into the location that you want to go into. And if you know the name of the file path, you don't even have to ls, right? So I know that the Python folder, or no, sorry. Yeah, I have a Python folder right here at the bottom right of my screen. I know I can go into this one that's in my desktop by just spelling it correctly. So P-Y-T-H, and then tab, enter. I now am in my Python folder. And I can go back up to my parent cd doc, enter, back to the parent. So now if I ls, there I am. Okay. So let's do a survey again, please. Let's 1 through 10, how well do we understand the cd command, change directory? So you can change directory to the name of the folder path location, or go back up to the parent, or go nowhere at all. Just do a 360 and then you're in the same place. So cd dot is that. That's what that basically is there. Okay. Now we have a couple more related to cd. Change to the root directory. Okay. So I told you guys a little bit earlier this lecture that the folder path location on your computer is like a tree with a single root, right? It all starts at one place of origin, then branches out from there. So if I type in cd/, I will then go to that location. Now I'm at the very root of my computer. So if I type in ls here, now I can see I can go into my applications folder, my library, my system, my users folder. And then my users folder is where I have me, my account. So if I type in cd users, tab, enter, ls, then I see here my username. So I can go there, cd, tab, just type in first few letters, enter, ls again, show me where I am. And I'm back to where I started at the beginning of the lecture, right? So this is where we saw at the beginning of the lecture, applications, desktop, documents, and I can now go back into my desktop. So let's go that route, cd, desktop, enter, ls, enter. Now back to my desktop. So that's how you can go from your desktop to your root back to your desktop. But do we all understand what the root is? There's a single directory that's the starting point for all the path file locations in your computer. That's what it is, okay? So, yeah, let's do another survey. Keep you guys engaged. How well do we understand what the root is? Okay, so give me a 1 out of 10 for that, please. Very nice. Oh, I see a question. Is it worth downloading a new terminal and learn the commands versus getting used to my own? So, in order to answer that question, I would have to ask which one you own. But before I ask that, I would say it's worth knowing the Bash Unix command line system before going anywhere else, because that's where we're starting you with. Okay, so that's going to be our recommended starting point. That's what I'm going through now in the lecture. The Bash, the Unix Linux Bash command lines. So there's a slight difference in Windows command lines versus the Bash Linux ones. That's why we had the Windows users download Commander so that you can use those Bash Unix Linux command lines. Okay, so that we're all using the same type of command lines, ls, cd, pwd. That's what I'm talking about when I say command lines, the types of commands that you give. I want the Windows users to use Commander so that we're all on the same page. Okay, does that answer your question, Nathan?
I mean, I understand that you want us to all use the same commands and everything, but am I just going to download this, use it while we're doing the class, and then delete it and go back to my own and then not know any of the commands? Is kind of what I was asking. Is it worth me learning all these commands that I won't use on my computer?
Definitely. Definitely, because you may have to use them on another computer. When you get your first job at a company, they may send you Mac or PC. So you don't know, but whenever you're deploying, so this is going to kind of get into what you guys are doing later in feature stacks. When you're deploying your application, which means you're putting it live onto the internet, you're putting it from your computer where you've been building it and hosting it to another computer that is going to host it to the World Wide Web, right? in order to get into that computer and use that computer remotely from your own, you have to use these command lines. So yes, even though it's not on your computer, you'll be accessing other computers through your own that use these command lines. So yes, even though they're not native to your operating system, Windows or PC, or Windows in your case, it is vital for you to know. So definitely worth downloading Commander and just using it. And then it's only a slight difference in going back to the, you know, whatever slight difference there is between Windows and Bash Unix. So there really is no reason to learn the Windows one. I don't think I ever had to use any of the window command lines when I was using the terminal on the job, even though I was on Windows. So it was just worked out that way.
And then, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. A couple of the guys are saying to get bash. I think we had to download that kind of like as a pre-thing before we were supposed to start the class. So I do have that also. Is it okay to use that versus Commander, or do you still recommend downloading Commander instead?
If you use git bash, it's going to work exactly the same as Commander. So keep to one, bash, git bash for you. If you haven't used or downloaded git bash yet, then just go with Commander. Okay, don't go searching for git bash and learning how to download that. Just go with what we've already recommended. But if you have it already downloaded, you're using it, it's going to be the same command lines for either. Okay, git bash is now just more specific for Git. And Sean asked me not to introduce how to deploy using Git on the terminal. He just wanted me to introduce the terminal this lecture. So I'm not going to go down that path of showing you guys how to deploy using Git, using the terminal. We're just going to talk about just introductory command lines and how we can all get some practice using these command lines. So CD desktop is where we left off. So we know what the root folder location is. We have hit all our path locations on our desktop. And now making a new folder. Now we're going to want to create folders and edit them and edit files. Okay, so let's start with that. But before I do, did that answer fully your question, Nathan? Any other questions related to that topic? Okay, good. So thumbs up is good. Awesome. All right, so just reading the chat here. Cool. Now let's make some folders. So I'm going to move my stuff over here to the left so you can see what we're creating. So now that we're in the desktop, okay, so this is where I'm currently blinking at. It shows me where I am. So I'm going to say mkdir, so that means make a directory or make a folder. So mkdir, and then the name space after the command, a space, and then the name of the folder or the directory that I want to create. So in this case, this folder here, take careful note, there's no spaces in the name of the folder. There's only underscores or dashes. So when you're creating a folder, keep that in mind, that you cannot have spaces in the name. Okay, a space differentiates between parts of the command line. So mkdir is differentiated from the name of the folder by a space. So you can't have a space in the name of your folder. Either underscore or dashes is preferred. Okay, so let's go with underscores. So I'm going to make a folder here in my desktop. So let's do that. I'm going to create a test folder. Okay, I'm just going to call it test. So mkdir, and I want to create a test folder. So let's name it test for test. And since I'm in my desktop, I should see that folder pop up on the right-hand side of my screen somewhere right here. So let's go ahead and take a look for that. As soon as I enter, boom, there it is. Top here, left, test. And if I type in ls here as well, there it is, test. There's that folder I created. So we can create now folders through our command line interface. We can delete them as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So it'll be either this one or this one. The one that's going to work for me is rmdir. So remove directory, rmdir. And then I can type in the name of the directory. So I can say remove my test folder. And there it is, it's gone. You see that it's no longer here. And if I type in ls, it's not an option available. So if I try to change directory into the test folder, it's going to say no such file or directory exists. It's not there. That's because we removed it. So rmdir, and then the name of the directory. That's how we change. Oh, that's how we create. Excuse me. So now I'm getting confused. That's how we delete. So let's create a new one. mkdir test. There's our folder. rmdir test. Let's remove it. So create and delete. Create and delete. That's now how we can do that. So let's give some feedback in the chat. How well do we understand create and delete folder? Remove rmdir. Create mkdir. Fantastic. Thank you guys for your patience and attention here. We're just about done. And then I'm going to show you guys how we can practice these commands. Okay, so one thing to note about your folder here is if you try to, let's say, mkdir test. So we create the test folder here, right? And in this test folder, let's put, I don't know, let's create something else here. Let's create a folder here that's called inner folder. Okay, I'm going to move this inner folder into my test folder. And now this inner folder is in the test folder. Okay, so if I say ls, and if I say cd test, and then ls again, there's my inner folder. Okay, so I see that registering there now through my command line. So I'm going to go back up a parent cd ... So I'm back to my desktop. And there's my test folder. And we know my test folder has an inner folder in it. So it's not empty anymore. And what I'm trying to show you guys here is if I say now mk or rmdir, so that means remove directory or remove folder, and then remove test with something inside of it, the inner folder. If I enter return now, it says, hold on a second, I can't do that because the directory is not empty. So it gives me this error like, I'm not going to delete something that's not empty. So you have to type in a special command here to delete a folder that has things in it. So rm space -rf and then the name of the folder. This is a force remove. Okay, so let's do this. So rm -rf and then the name of the folder. So let's see it now. Well, it's gone. My test folder is gone, and so is everything that was inside it. So that inner folder that was inside my test folder is now deleted as well. So be careful with this command. It's powerful. You can delete a lot of stuff by accident if you don't use it correctly, right? You could just delete everything. If you go to your root folder and then do this, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, so rm -rf and then the name of the folder that you want to create. So that is how you delete folders with folders inside of them. All right, now everyone raise their hand. We're going to take an oath here to not go to our public library and start doing these commands, we'll start creating havoc. All right, so no, I'm just kidding. I know you guys wouldn't do that, but I just realized that as I was teaching it right now, I was like, oh, wow. Okay, that's how you can delete a computer. So rm-rf, and then the name of the folder is how you would delete it. And my hand is still raised on this thing here. So. Okay, cool. All right, so now let's create some files. So I'm going to create my folder here. So clear. I don't want to see all that. I want to say mkdir, my test folder again. Where's my test folder? It's going to pop up any second here now. ls. There's my test folder. So if I say cd test and I type in ls again. Oh, I see my error. Where is my test folder? There it is. Okay. So now I'm in my test folder. I want to create a file. So I'm just going to have this open side by side so you can see it happening in real time. Okay, so I have my folder view right there. That's my test folder. That is this, right? So let's create some files inside. I want to create an HTML file. So I'll say touch index.html. Okay, so now if I press enter, boom, there it is, index.html. That's the file now I created inside my folder that I created through my terminal. So we can do the things that we do on our GUI, on our GUI through terminal command lines. We can create files and folders. Let's create a CSS, touch style.css. All right, isn't this so satisfying that you're just like, oh, okay, I'll just create files to the terminal. I don't have to click around. I have to touch my mouse. All right, so so let's delete the files now. rm index.html. And as you can see here, it just disappeared. Let's remove the style.css. rm style.css, enter, deleted. It's gone. Okay, so let's create them again. Touch. There it is. All right. And touch style.css. Oops. Okay. So I've recreated the two files inside my folder. Let's give some feedback. How well do we understand how to create and remove files now? Create and remove. No. Yeah, create and remove files. Sorry, I had a moment of doubt. Create and remove files. How well do we understand? Good. All 10s. There's another Josh in here. And last name starts with a V. I always punt those guys out. All right. Cool. So we've created the files, we removed the files. Now we're going to rename and move the file. Okay, so MV, and then so let's see what this does. Okay, so MV, and then we said the name of our file is index.html. So MV index.html, and I'm gonna give it a new name. Okay, so let's say new name .html. I'm just gonna call it that. I'm gonna change index.html's file name to new name by doing this command, mv, the original name of the file, and the new name. All right, so enter, and there we go. It's changed. So now we know how to change a file name. Okay, now let's do something else with that mv command. Alrighty, mv, let's take that file name, mv new name. So I'm just going to type in new, and see, ne W. And by the way, you cannot click in here to go to the place the cursor is blinking. You have to use either your arrows or your delete. Okay, so MV NEW tab. So it types in the rest of the file name. I know there's no typos that way. And then I press, well, before I do anything else, I want to move it. I want to move it to my desktop. So I'm going to take it from this path here in the folder and move it to my desktop where I have that Python icon in the back. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm going to do // remember / is the parent root, the parent folder, and then / means now in the parent folder in here, I'm going to type in the name of the file, new name index.html. So I'm changing the name slightly from new name to new name index.html. Okay. And I did that by typing in /mv name of the current file where I'm at right now in the test folder, and then up a parent directory here, and then the new file name. So enter, and there it is right here. Do you see on my desktop? There's that file I just created, and it's no longer in this folder here. It's no longer there. And I did that all through the terminal command. I mean, it would be as easy as just drag and drop, right? Using the GUI. But we can do that now using this. Imagine if we want to drag and drop from one area to another that's not so easy to pull up folders or locations. We can do that through the terminal. Okay. So the more we use it, the better, the more comfortable we'll feel, the better it'll get. Fun fact, fun little story. I had needed help in a project at one point after graduating from the dojo, and I had made I knew a connection through a mutual friend. She was a great developer. She had a lot of knowledge. She helped me figure out a lot of great stuff, and I considered her like a senior in the developing, in development. But she didn't know how to use the terminal. She was in awe of the fact that I knew how to use this when it was just a few simple command lines. So I know it doesn't seem like much, deleting, updating, creating, but it really does come in handy to know these command lines, even though it's through like some seemingly antiquated way, but it is still super helpful to know how to use this. It is not arbitrary knowledge here. Okay, so copying a file. Now we want to be able to copy a file. So let's go ahead. Oh, and you gave it a new
voiceover. VoiceOver speaks descriptions of items on the screen.
Okay, sorry. Hey, that happens time to time. Sometimes I mute. Oh, now we're drawing on my screen. What's going on here? We having fun? Did I do that? Okay, let's see. Who drew that purple thing on my screen here? I'm getting too excited. Okay, no, it's all right. Wish I knew how to delete that stuff off my screen. Oh, I know what to do. Stop sharing. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. Don't worry. All right, so where were we? Okay, copying a directory. We're going to copy one now. Instead of taking it and renaming it, we're going to just copy it. Okay, so let's take this file name here, new name.index.html. Let's go to my desktop here, cd ... I'm in my desktop now. I'm going to say cp, and I'm going to say the name of the file, new. I could just type in new, and it'll know the name of the file by typing in tab. The rest of it, there's nothing else in my current desktop that starts with new, so it's going to automatically load it if I press tab. There we are. And now I want to copy this index.html. Let's copy it by typing in the name of the copy, copy.html. I'm just naming the copy. Okay, you don't have to name the copy. You can name it anything. But in this case, I'll name it copy, and there we are. I have now two HTML files in my desktop. I have this index.html and I have a copy.html. This is just the same thing as this index, but copied, right? So simple enough. That's how we copy a file with a new name. And then we can also copy a directory. So we can take a folder and copy it as well. So let's clear my view here. I'm going to copy my test folder. So see here, my test folder. I have this style.css file, single solitary style.css file, just so we're reminded what we're seeing here. Okay, so I'm going to copy my test file. Let's do that. CP-RF test for the name of the file I'm copying, or the folder, sorry. And then the name of the folder, so I'm just going to call it copy. And there we go. So now I have a copy folder, and this copy folder has the same exact thing that my test folder has. And that's because, well, it's a copy, right? Just like I created it. I said CP-RF, which means force, because anytime you have to use -RF when there's already files inside that folder, right? It's not gonna, you have to have that -RF if there are files or folders already in that folder that you're trying to copy, right? So force this folder to be copied, and then give it this name here, copy. So I've copied now these two directories, folders, we call them as well. Okay, so two directories, two different names. That's what I did there. Let's give a 1 through 10 in the chat, how well we understood how I did that. All right, and we're almost done here, I promise. Okay. Now, for this here, okay, opening current directory in your GUI, so we can go back to our desktop. I can say open, let's say I can go to, this is really cool. I like to do this all the time when I'm feeling lazy. Like, let's say I want to, I have a bunch of folders here in my coding dojo folder. I can open it. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I have it here. And if I say CD, for example, like let's say I have the folder I want to go into, the project, I want to go to somewhere kind of nested deep, right? So this one here, CSS intro, whatever this is, I want to be there. So I say CD space, and I can grab that folder now into my terminal, and it gives me that file path location. And now I can press enter, and I'm there. And now that I'm there, I can open this up by saying open dot, and it's going to open it up in the Finder. Okay, so now this folder here, which I could have opened just by going through this GUI here, clicking it open, all I did different was drag it into my terminal to give me that file path location. And I said open, and then dot here means here, dot means here, this location. And then I was able to open the Finder to show me this folder that I have named here, CSS intro. Okay, so that's how you open. And lastly, oh, one more thing before I go there. I've set it up here so that I can also start coding on Visual Studio Code from this location. So I can type in code and then dot. And Visual Studio opens at this location. And I can just start working. Okay. So if you don't have that command line configured where that's not working yet, we'll get that working with you after the lecture. Okay, that might take some configuration. So code, space, and then dot, that will open Visual Studio Code at that path location. Then you can start editing your code through here. Okay, so let's continue. And so the last bit of commands that we're going to go over this lecture are the sudo commands. And we're not going to use them, we're just going to explain what they are. Okay, do you remember how I talked about deploying and how you would take your project and put it onto another computer through your computer? Well, in order to go on that foreign computer, that other computer that you're accessing through your own, in order to use the commands on that terminal's computer, you have to type in sudo first. So sudo stands for super user. So super user, same command line. So you're just saying I'm a super user by typing in sudo. And you need to use sudo to be able to use applications on a foreign computer. Okay, not something you have to put into practice right away. But if you do, if you want to memorize how this works, okay, if you want to get some familiarity with this, and I think this is what I recommend is that you guys, after this lecture, create some groups within yourselves, or you just, however you guys feel, do it alone or make a giant group and have fun playing this game together. I never finished the end of this game. I wish I did. It's a lot of fun. Well, it's relatively fun, right? But it is a fun way to learn the terminal. So let's type in the same commands that we just learned. Someone give me one. Let's play this together. Okay, ls. All right, so what do we see here? We have a little image, so we have some fun with it, but it's going to give us our location, right? So now I have locations that I can go into. Imagine this is a game. You look at your surroundings with ls, move back to your current location with cd, and then location. So this is exactly the same thing we just learned this lesson. Now we just incorporate it into a game. Imagine these locations as, file paths or folders that you can enter into. So you get familiar with thinking of your computer as a location area. So you have certain locations where you have certain applications saved and other locations where you have other things saved. And then we can interact with the game and find the story and beat the game through typing in the commands. So someone give me one other command and then we'll wrap this lecture up.
CD.
Mhm.
CD.
Yes. Typed it. Okay, now what? MIT. So Josh said CD MIT. Okay, so these are the available locations. So I have to type in the location I want to go into. So change directory and then MIT. Now enter. You have moved to MIT. You have arrived at magic carpet to MIT. Okay. So now if I type in ls here, ls, ooh, something. So there's more locations to go inside here. Or let's get out of MIT. This looks too intimidating, to be honest. All right, CD, I'm gonna go to the northern meadow. That's more my cup of tea. LS. Yeah, LS, and then what I see here is a hill. All right, so now you can play the game. All right, so interact, have fun, memorize these commands together alone, but I recommend playing this game now that you've familiarized yourself with the basic commands. All right, so that being said, this lecture is now coming to a close. Does anyone have any questions, broad or specific, related to anything we've talked about today? How's the weather in Texas? It's hot. Yes, it is hot. Anything, guys? Don't be shy. Okay, fantastic. Well, I am glad.
I was trying to, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
The only thing that I kind of that I almost got confused was I was thinking that I used to think that maybe the PowerShell and the command line were the same before because they kind of almost work almost the same. But I noticed that the PowerShell has just like a little bit differences, like the sudo may not work in the PowerShell and things like that. It might have a little like slightly different command.
Slightly different. That is the difference. It's slightly different. I mean, it's like a language difference. Once you know one that's similar to another, you can pick that other one up pretty quick, right? So let's stick to one. I would recommend the bash. That's going to be what you use most commonly for, I think, most applications or even just deployment. So let's get familiar with the bash terminal command lines. Yeah, exactly, just a slight difference. Awesome.
One more thing, what about the one on the VS Code?
Same thing, it's the same thing. Oh, good, excellent. I'm glad you asked that question. So let me show you something, guys, real quick here. I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna go back to here. Okay, I'm gonna say code here. There we are, we're opening it up. Now, this terminal that you see here that I've been using through the lecture, it's the same thing that you're going to be able to see on your Visual Studio interface. So you can open the terminal in your Visual Studio interface by going to one of these navbar options and then going to New Terminal, or it says the shortcut there, Control Tittle, which is the key to the left of your 1 on your computer. You know, the row of numbers at the very top. Tittle is to the very left of the 1. So if you hold down the Control, if you're on a Mac, at the bottom left of your keyboard, and then hold it, and then click Tittle, it will open up that shortcut to open the terminal. And then on PC, I believe it's Control Tittle. Control Tittle. All right, so what I have here is a terminal now open at the folder or directory location that I opened, what I opened here. So CSS intro, that's where this directory is currently located when I open my terminal here. So I can say ls, same commands, and it's going to show me the files. So if I type cd ... ls, I'm in week 1, day 2, cd ... ls, I'm in web fundamentals, cd ... I'm in, I'm bring it to the bottom. Let me bring it more to the forefront here. Sorry. Okay, so here I am. Now I'm at Coding Dojo folder. There you see at the bottom. So cd ... again, and I'm at my desktop. So when you open the terminal on your Visual Studio, it'll open at the directory location that you're currently located. But you can still navigate anywhere else in the computer by using the same command lines. Okay, and there's a couple more things to this one here. You can select the different types of terminals by clicking this down arrow caret symbol here, and it'll tell you which type of terminals you have available to use. I have a couple downloaded, and it's able to see and access my bash terminal. So exactly the same thing for me as a Mac user. It's just a different terminal with the same command line that I would have to use. Okay, so you can click through your different terminals here, bash and then ZSH. Cool. So I'm glad you guys asked that. And then you can delete this terminal here by clicking the trash. Click it again. You can have multiple terminals up here. Let's see here. If I press the plus, that will open a new one, and then every icon here is a new terminal that you would have opened. So you can actually move terminals to be side by side next to each other. So now I have a bash one on the right and a ZSH one on the left. Maybe you will need multiple terminals in the future when you're running applications. One will be running some part of it, another terminal will be running another part of the application, maybe. So just keep that in mind. You can have multiple terminals in Visual Studio Code. You can play with the formatting of it like that. You can move it to the right even, I think. Let's see here. Clear terminal, nope. Let's see. Yeah, you can expand it. Let's see here. Yeah, and then you can add new rows or columns of views here. Okay, so thank you guys again for letting me introduce you to the terminal. I hope that you will enjoy using it, feel like a super hacker now that you can use the terminal. And like anything, this is the introduction. You will spend the rest of your career as a developer improving your skill with the terminal. I'm always improving, and I always see people that are way super advanced. You know, if you ask Sean about how much he loves the terminal, he has a lot to tell you. He will show you some magic tricks using the terminal. So pick his brain when he gets back. Okay, I encourage you guys to pester him to unlock the terminal for you if you really want to see what can be done. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, but you guys can get more familiar with that game. MIT Terminus. Have fun with this. And I'll be here for the rest of the afternoon until we close out. So I'll be happy to meet any of you guys. Don't feel shy to drop in. I'd love to help you guys if you have any questions on your assignments or just any questions in general about what we've learned today. Okay, so thank you guys very much. You've been very patient. We've gone over the lecture hour. So you have the rest of the day to work on getting familiar with the terminal, or continue learning about APIs and work with APIs. Or if you want to read ahead, you can go into the advanced topics here in the platform and read through Bootstrap, right? Go through this video, see how this is done, because tomorrow morning after the morning lecture, we're going to be going over Bootstrap, which is a lot of fun as well. Okay, lots of cool topics you guys are learning these last couple of days. Take advantage of it. So again, we'll have the rooms open. You guys can come by and visit me. Love to meet you all. And again, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and close the recording now.